is Dave
and Barbara
from Hiking with Dave and Barbara. You can catch our blog on www.hikingwithdaveandbarbara. We're currently doing a set of short videos entitled Can You Do It? And today's little video is about the West Highland Way in Scotland. History to it is one of our friends, Pete Johnson, who won't mind us repeating the stories he normally tells us about it, has done this walk several times, I believe, and he says it's possibly the best walk in the UK. So we decided to do it last year, and we're just going to answer some of the questions that you might have about whether you can do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to split it down into several little sections. The first section is cost, as we do with all the other videos. Timescales, so we'll see if you've got the time to do it. Third section, quite important, can you actually do it? How hard is it? It's a tough one. Fourth, we're going to look at the services, which are the hotels and the food. And finally, the hike-specific issues. Just little things about this hike which makes it different to other hikes. Okay, are you ready with the cost?
Yep.
Okay, let's go with the cost. So let's have a look at the cost. Well, we did this. We booked it not a long way in advance. So we had to split it between hotels and campsites, and we used one cabin as well. Generally, the hotels, if you can get in them, vary between about 80 and 110, 115 pounds, depending on which hotel you find. Campsites much more reasonable, looking at maybe 11, 12 pounds per person per night. And the cabin, I think, was 65 pounds, I'm not quite sure. When you work this all out, for two people, it cost us 400 pounds. This was for 6 days or 7 days with the initial hotel. So you can see it's not an expensive trip if you do the camping. In addition to the camping, we also took our bags, we had our bags carried. The actual carrying of bags was quite inexpensive. I think we paid £7, £7.50 per bag per night. And I think we had two bags carried. Did we have two?
No.
We had 10. We had two bags carried in the end because we had our camping equipment carried as well. So it sounds a bit unorganised, but actually the trip was quite good. So cost-wise, it's quite an inexpensive multi-day trek. Anything to add on, Barbara? Or have they completed the costing section?
Yeah, if you were to plan it,
yeah,
we met people who'd booked it a year in advance.
Yes.
Stayed in hotels, took more days doing it. We just saw a weather window, booked it the week before, hence there was no hotels left.
Yeah.
Camping was absolutely fine, campsites were clean, nice, showers on them, they were fine.
Barbara's got a great blog and she'll go through all the things that we did that you could do to do this with a weather window. You're right, we met somebody who booked it a year before us. Unfortunately, they got the good weather that we'd planned for. So they were lucky.
Yeah,
but
we were lucky.
We were lucky as well, I suppose. Okay, let's move on. We're going to look at the timescales of the hike. So let's look at the timescales of the West Highland Way. For us, we did it in 6 days. We're quite strong hikers, 16 miles per day. Normally, though, I would recommend 7 or 8 days. We did meet a couple who did it in 5 days. And Barbara will probably tell you about those later. They came a cropper though, just to let you know in advance. So what you're looking at is if you can do it in a week, or if you have maybe 9 or 10 days in total, just give yourself time to start the trek and finish the trek. The trek finishes at Fort William. It's a little bit awkward to get back to Glasgow. I think it's 3 or 4 hours on the train back to Glasgow. Then wherever you're getting back to after that, it's going to take you some time as well. Best time of the year to do it? Well, certainly you need as good a weather as you can get, but there is a problem. What's that problem, Barbara?
Oh, midges. It's Scotland.
Midges, yeah.
Horrendous, little biting creatures. And they're quite common June, July, August, when the weather is warm and damp.
Yeah.
Better times to do the walk, May or September, but beware of the trail bike trials, which happen for a whole week in May every year, which would be noisy and you'd struggle to find accommodation.
Yeah, it's very true. It is a shame about July and August with the midges, but because this hike really depends on the good weather. We'll explain that in other stages. Anyway, should we move on?
Yep.
Let's move on to, well, how hard it is, quite an important section. Have a look how hard this trek is. It's, as I said before, 6 days. It took us 6 days to do, and it was just under 100 miles long, 154 kilometres. So 15 miles a day for us is doable. With the altitude, average altitude of 500 metres a day is doable, and it's 6 days long. If you spread it out a bit longer, clearly the distances and the altitude are less. But you need to be quite fit, and you've got to be used to doing multiple days of hiking on I don't know, 4 or 5 days at a time. If you can do that, then this trip is very doable for nearly anybody. I don't think there's a problem. This is probably one of the easiest treks over 6 days I think we've done, maybe with the exception of the Thames Path, which is flat. So as long as you're a reasonable hiker and you can do multi-day trekking, I think this trek could be for you. Anything to add on that one, Barbara?
Just head north.
Just head north.
Well signposted all the way.
Yeah.
There's a few areas of ascent coming out of Glencoe is one of them.
Yes.
Just follow the crowd, follow the signs. You shouldn't get lost.
Yeah.
You should be fine. Wear a good pair of boots.
Wear a good pair of boots, and hopefully you get the weather. Things will be great. Okay, we're going to move on to the next section, which is section 4, which is the services and food. Okay, well, let's look at the services in terms of food and accommodation. If I look at accommodation first, we have a selection of small hotels, I say pubs / bed and breakfasts. We had 3 of those on our 7 days. We had a couple of campsites and we had a cabin. Generally, the accommodation is pretty good in the hotel stakes, and the campsites were also very good. I was a bit surprised how good they were, and there was bars with plenty of grass and plenty of people doing the hike as well, but it was well organised. But the good thing is the baggage transfer we had, which enables us to do the camping, knew exactly where to put your bags. So they would pick up from a hotel, quite happily drop all your kit at a campsite 20 miles up the road. That worked really well. So actually the accommodation, hygiene was fantastic. Do you know anything about that, about the food or the accommodation on it?
It was excellent. It was all very clean, showers at the campsites, food. It was mostly proper, what I'd call proper walking food at the pubs and campsites that we ate. We tended just to pick up some food from like local shops to eat during the day. No, it was excellent.
So if you don't mind camping
or book it a year in advance.
Yeah, the other option is if you just want hotels or cabins, but hotels, you've got to book this a year in advance. The very first day we met a couple, nice couple, and we booked it a week before. They booked it a year in advance. Fortunately, they had the good weather that we planned for, but they still booked it a year in advance.
They were so lucky.
Yeah, they were so lucky they had great weather, but they did have hotels all the way. They were happy. So you take your choice, really. You wait for the weather. You know the weather's going to be good because the weather forecast, and you book it like us. Go in tents, go in hotels if you can find them. Otherwise, you book it a year in advance or 6 months in advance, and you don't know what you're going to get. You might get the worst weather in the world. We'll probably talk about that in a minute. Okay, that covers the services. Did I cover the bag transfer? Did I?
Yeah, well, we booked it with Sherpa, who we've used before on different walks. They're very good service. £8 for each bag.
Yeah. You
could just take one enormous bag up to 20 k's, which would take most of your gear and your tent.
Yeah.
So excellent service from them.
For the price, it's probably well worth it. It does make the trek totally enjoyable. When somebody passes you and they're carrying the ridiculous rucksack, you think,
they don't come past.
They don't come past, exactly. You can like look, we go past them, to be honest. Okay, last section. Let's have a look at the hike-specific issues. Okay, let's have a look at the hike-specific issues. Are there any hike-specific issues, Barbara?
Try and ensure that you get the weather. If you didn't get the weather, it would be, especially like coming over Rannoch Moor, it would just be horrible. It would be so wet and miserable and dull, and the camping would have been pretty awful as well. So I don't know, unless you book it the week before, you're just going to take a gamble with the weather.
Yeah.
The midges, mind the midges season, check out when they're out in Scotland, because apparently they are a complete nightmare. You just get bitten to death, but we managed to avoid those. and the young couple that we met, carrying huge bags each, doing the walk over 5 days. And day one we did say, why don't you phone up Sherpa and get them to carry your bags? No, they persisted, and they got more and more tired, and by day 4, day 5 they had to give up. We met them at one point. He was carrying her rucksack, she had a bad knee. They had to can the whole walk and decided to come back the following year and do it over more days. So take heed, don't do more than you can actually manage, and make sure you enjoy it as well. The final thing is, we did like a whole day walk the whole length of Loch Lomond. I think it took us about 11 hours to get to the campsite at night. It wasn't like a simple walk along a lake. It was a very, very rocky shore. So it was beautiful, views were fantastic. It just took us longer than we thought it was going to do that day.
Yeah, it did. But we still managed it. People actually said that was a technical bit, but
it wasn't technical.
It wasn't technical. It was just a bit.
Took more time to do it.
So to sort of sum up this whole trip, it is a quite fantastic walk. Peter, who recommended it, last year, or the year before, and the year before, he's dead right. It is one of the best walks, if not the best walk in the UK. 6 days makes it doable for nearly anyone. The weather is the key for me. We had great weather because we planned it that way. We had one bad day at the end, but the first 5 days were absolutely, truly stunning. Some of the best scenery you'll see in the UK, I think, without a shadow of a doubt. If, though, we'd gone the following week and you have rain the whole time, I would say it's probably one of the worst hikes in the world, period, because you won't see anything. You'll just see cloud and mist, and it'll just be terrible. So my thinking is book late, book a tent, book some hotels if you get them, and just get the weather, and you can have a fantastic time. But I would recommend it, would you?
Totally, definitely recommend.
Yeah.
It's not too hard. It is described as one of the top 10 walks in the world.
It is.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be lonely. There's we think there's 30,000 people a year doing it. So you have 70, 80 people every day doing it. You'll meet plenty of people. Again, if you want solitude, probably not the walk, but it's not ridiculously busy.
No,
I think it's fine.
Nice.
Yeah.
The last thing is at the end, we stayed extra time at Glen Nevis campsite in Fort William and went up Ben Nevis.
Yeah.
There's a final little excursion.
They certainly do.
Bob up there for the day.
And it was the Glen Nevis campsite.
Glen Nevis campsite.
Yeah. Okay. And we'll see you then. We're going to do one more of these. The last one is going to be the coast to coast. So you can check out our next Can You Do It video.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.